It's in the name.
This episode of the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast is presented by Faulkner University. Faulkner University is a private Christian liberal arts university based in Montgomery, Alabama, with a mission to provide an education anchored by not only intellect, but also character and service. The Faulkner experience aims to educate the whole person. Every individual matters every day. We all want to become better versions of ourselves. No one wants to remain trapped where they are because of missed opportunities and unrealized dreams. At Faulkner University, we believe your dreams don't have an expiration date. We understand that you're looking for more than a degree. You want to find your niche and thrive in your career. Whether you're a high school senior just beginning your trek or an adult student looking for a better path, Faulkner is here to help guide your journey. Go to faulkner.edu to apply or get more info. That's faulkner.edu. Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor with Ben and Travis podcast, coming to you from Lads to Leaders in Nashville, Tennessee. I know there's all kinds of people everywhere, all over the country, and maybe the world that does the Lads to Leaders. Absolutely. Maybe not this weekend, but
I think some of the other ones are some other weekends around the world, but there's a lot of people this weekend. Here, Orlando, Atlanta, Memphis, I think. I'm not even sure all the locations, but we're in Nashville, and there is a ton of people here.
Ton of people. I just really got here. I was up till 1 o'clock last night, spring formal, Riverside, looking all pretty and doing all kinds of fun stuff there. So if I sound tired, I am. I'm not going to lie. And Ben's just getting started on the weekend, right?
Man, well, I wouldn't say that because we got here about noon yesterday, and I think I finally got to bed about midnight after putting everybody in their right places and helping our group get settled in, watching Alabama play. That was stressful enough. Then I couldn't go to sleep right away. So I know there was a lot of people watching that game from here, but it's just awesome to be here with a lot of brothers and sisters. It's the most distracting, I guess, I've been recording a podcast because we usually don't have a live audience, and it's not that anybody's stopping to watch us, but we have a lot of people passing by, so it's interesting.
Well, something that's easy to talk about, I think, at Lads to Leaders is being leaders, maybe mentors. We've certainly benefited from some great people in our lives that have pointed us towards the Lord. And so Lads to Leaders is one of those things where it's everywhere you turn around, everywhere you look, there's somebody that's trying to help somebody be better and ultimately presenting the gospel in all kinds of different ways. So certainly the Helping Healing Humor podcast has been impacted by many, many mentors. None any farther or down the list than Jack Zorn, for sure. Leaders.
Absolutely. I can remember coming to Lads Leaders when I was a kid. I was probably 12 or 13. It was not this big. It was in the hotel. The awards were in the hotel, I think. We stayed in the hotel, but we actually, the competition part was over at Lipscomb University back then. There wasn't all of this stuff that was set up, but I think I was real young. My dad was a welder at Occidental Chemical, and my mom cleaned rooms at the hospital. And a guy that I currently now go to church with invited Dad to bring his son to Lads to Leaders. So I came when I was younger, came 1 year, competed 1 year, and then the lady that wrote my speech was Miss Betty Flanagan from Highland Park. She wrote my speech that year, never came back, but now I preach to her every Sunday. She sits in the pew about 4 rows in front of me.
So she knows what she's done to the world.
She did this. It's her fault that I'm here. Her and Max Eady, who's the song leader at the church, those two were instrumental in getting me here. I loved doing what we did. I led a song. I did a speech. And so I did all those things here, and that kind of started my desire to ministry. And the problem with that is, maybe it's not a problem, but when I went to Freed and I decided to do that, I think somebody else sort of tailed along. So we could kind of blame the world for both.
As per usual, right? Just 9 months behind. Maybe not that long on some occasions, but certainly the fact that it's had an impact on you impacts me. That's just how this thing works. And so for sure. And then as was announced, I guess it was yesterday, the passing of Kenny Barfield there in Florence. Many years. I don't know how many. I can't remember off the top of my head how many years taught at Mars Hill Bible. Of course, that's where you went to school. I heard him speak many times around the area. We've certainly talked about some of the apologetics that you learned from him in that role as a teacher.
Back in the day, you would get 3-inch binders full of material about apologetics, about the book of Revelation. There was all sorts of stuff that we would do as a junior in high school. You went through the cosmological, the teleological, the mathematical, all these arguments for the existence of God as a junior. And then he would do the book of Revelation for the other part of that year. And I mean, it's like information overload. And he would just give binders and binders. Now they do it my son got to take the class, and it's on a jump drive, of course, now. But it's just packed full of information. And he was just so smart. I don't know that I've ever met anybody that was more smart than Kenny Barfield. There's a lot of smart people in the world, but he was right up there with them. And I went to see him when Dad was in the rehab. He was at the same place, and I went to see him, and he wasn't doing real great then, but he was still sitting there on a laptop working on another book. Nice. He just never stopped learning, never wanted to stop learning. And he was, up there with the Apologetics Press guys. I'm sure they shared notes on occasion about things, but Kenny Barfield would, that's a loss in the kingdom for sure, but it's a gain for him.
Absolutely.
He worked real hard all his life for the kingdom, and so I'm proud for him.
Well, it's a great thing that you have people like that, and that's kind of what we want to talk about is the mentorship, that it is passed down. The Bible speaks to this from the very opening pages of the legacy that's passed down. And you think about, guys, how much knowledge was in that noggin, right? But he didn't keep it to himself. He passed it along and equipped people with the ability to make decisions. And I'm sure the number is outrageous of people who were drawn closer to the Lord because of a Jack Zorn, a Kenny Barfield, fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
But then you have people that are specific to you, from your dad to our Sunday school teachers, or the folks at Jacksonburg or New Hope, or down the line, who made it important. Maybe they weren't the best public speakers, but they got you in the room with some people who were, or got you to events like this to where you could do those things, or a Titus camp like we have at Heritage Christian University in the summers, to put on that. I mean, that's a even from just a strictly worldly standpoint, the ability to stand up and communicate with people, you're going to use that skill at some level. And I've often used that as a Titus camp pitch, hey, you're going to come do some public speaking because that's something you're going to have. But I just think about the people who've nudged us along, encouraged us. One of the reasons we're here today, this weekend, is to promote the book, The Adventures of Ben and Travis, and the WorryCoaster. And I'll just be honest, a kid's book was not on my radar probably 5 years ago, but here we are promoting that, and man, it's just been a wild ride. A ton of support, tons of support.
Well, when Dad passed away, one of the things that at the funeral, both guys that got up and talked are ministers now. And they said, he was instrumental in doing that. My dad was never a minister. My dad was an elder. He helped to start after I did Lads, he kind of helped push Lads along at our church several years later. And through that, he encouraged a lot of people. And I see, all right here in front of us, you guys can't see it, but right here in front of us, there's a lot of people passing that they're not ministers, but they're parents, they're volunteers, they're people who are helping get other kids involved. And because they're helping get those kids, you never know which of these kids are going to be ministers, elders, youth ministers, different kinds of volunteers in the church. And so it's that multiplication of talents and abilities. It starts with one person just encouraging another. you know how our weird minds work. I always think back to Wayne's World. You know, when he says something in that movie, he's like, and so on and so on and so on. And it keeps like these boxes keep filling of all these people. And I think that's how it goes with the church. You know, Paul said, I'm entrusting to you, Timothy, something I want you to entrust to faithful men who will entrust to other faithful men. And so I'm going to pass this down to you so that you can pass it down to the next generation. And that just keeps on multiplying. And so that's what Lads to Leaders is about. That's what CYC is about. That's what a lot of the things that we do through the years. You never know. I've had youth ministers say, well, we only had 10 kids go, or we only had 5 kids go, or we only had 30 people show up for an event. And I say it doesn't matter how many people show up. You minister to and you do good things with the ones who do show up, because then you never know which one of those is going to make a huge impact. Jack Zorn took 8 boys and started this program. You know, he didn't know. It's kind of like us. We didn't know we were going to write a book, you know, a kid's book one day. He didn't know that 8 kids was going to turn into 11,000, 14,000, whatever this, you know, the full amount of this conference does every year. But from 8 kids going and visiting some churches to this great program, he never knew it was going to be that.
Yeah, I mean, you think of a Gary Gooch at Jacksonburg who's like, I'm going to get these 2 guys to come up and lead the Smile song or whatever it was. I didn't know the song. Then you start doing the little VBS things and you get up and start leading. And then the next thing you know, somebody at Maywood's like, hey, you guys want to do the fun sing? Sure, we'll do the fun sing. And then it takes off, and whether you want to give credit or blame, here we are. But it is that one person that comes along and plants the seed, and of course that's a great parable the Lord gave us, planting the seed and understanding that God gives the increase. And so that's where it all starts, right? God's able to use what the world deems is foolish to bring about some amazing things.
Could be a puppet program that some of our kids are about to start. I think we got about 4 groups doing puppets here in a minute, and we're going to go from one to the next. But it may start there, and those guys and those girls may become leaders in the church doing other things besides puppets, but it's got to start somewhere.
Speaking of puppets, how long is it going to take you to get over there? Because I think we've got a 2:00 slot. I didn't want to. If you had to haul boogie from the other side of the whole thing, we might need to let you know.
I think I've just got to go to the corner down here and go to the mezzanine. Whether that's up or down, we were debating that a while ago. But I got to get to Canal, so I think I'll be fine.
Okay.
It doesn't start till about 2:15. So we got a little bit of time to talk and to work on this, and we appreciate the Lot Network, I guess it is, that's allowing us to use this booth, and we appreciate that very much, as this is a really cool thing to be able to record live from Lads to Leaders.
So much like CYC, we're here, and Jacob Hennigan, our artist for the children's book, is here. He's manning the booth right now because somebody has to, and he's done a great job. If you've not seen the cover yet, that's something you need to check out. I think we've been pumping it pretty hard, but who knows? I always get people going, you guys have a podcast? And I feel like I wear people out about it, but
we've
had
a few people that don't go to CYC. They're here. So we've had a few people going, I don't know what this is, but it looks interesting. So we've had some conversations, and so we appreciate whatever groups that were out there who put us on the scavenger hunt list, because a couple of kids have found us to take pictures for scavenger hunt.
Appreciate that.
That was pretty cool, and something you don't know yet. I'm going to give you a little piece of information you haven't heard.
All right.
He has the storyboard ready.
He has the storyboard ready.
Storyboard
I did
is
not
ready.
know that.
I haven't even got to look at it yet, but it's at the booth, and he's got his little sketch out of what the storyboard is going to look like, and then he's going to start the drawings. So we're already we're cooking.
That is fun.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. I'm excited about that. I'm ready to see that.
Give you a little something to be excited about.
So man, that's phenomenal. That's good stuff. I mean, the guy's talented.
He's super talented.
Hopefully he doesn't listen to this so he doesn't get the big head. But he's talented, and he's probably at this point second guessing getting into this partnership with us, but we're not going to let him off the hook anytime soon. But yeah, the book was an idea that I think you've been working with kids at Mars Hill Bible School. You've seen some pretty awesome books. You've shared some of those with me. And we thought, hey, we can do this. We've had plenty of adventures growing up. And so I guess kind of unpack kind of our approach here. I know we've talked about it when we were in Dallas, but maybe not at length. Well, we've got time.
Yeah, so I go into the school at Mars Hill, and I try to do some emotional intelligence stuff. So we talk about just identifying emotions in yourself, identifying emotions in other people, trying to understand that, and then helping kids regulate those emotions when we can. So it may be through different activities. And there's a lot of great books that are out there that people have written on mental health, but most of the time they're not written by Christians. There are some good ones. There's a couple I've even seen out here. So there are some, but we just wanted to start that conversation. And so we were talking about that for a while. And the idea was, hey, we did a lot of stuff as kids. We've been playing together since we were in diapers, I guess, as cousins. And so we did it as the Adventures of Ben and Travis. And we're just going to tackle some issues. Hopefully this is the first of many. This one is going to be on worry and anxiety. And so we're going to tackle that as a kid's book from the standpoint of there's a roller coaster I'm afraid to get on. So we want to jump on, or we're trying to do that. And you're going to help me. You're going to help me get on that roller coaster. So that's the plan. And I think we got a good one. So we may go from that to looking at helping people with special needs. We talked about doing one maybe on divorce. And so there's a lot of different topics that need to be tackled. And we're going to try to do that as we go through with this book. If you're an adult, you're listening to this, you don't know much about what we do, you can also go to benandtravis.com. And there's a lot of articles already on there that just writings that you can put in your bulletin. You can, share those. We just, ask that you give us credit for it. But other than that, they're free. And then, of course, our podcast, we try to make that about mental health and encouraging people in that. And in the church, faith and mental health, they're not separate and apart from each other. So we try to help out in those areas.
Well, we believe we're created, right? We're created. Yep. God created us a certain way. He gave us emotions. He gave us a mental capacity to wrestle with the things of life. And he didn't leave us alone in that. He gave us so much insight into how the world works. And the more and more it seems that we advance, the more and more we line up with the things that he said.
Yeah.
And so we like to incorporate that. And that's no different for this children's book. The underlying thing there is going to be the fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
And how that equips us to deal with the things of life.
Yeah.
He comes alongside us. I don't guess, not from a worldly standpoint does he deliver us from everything. He doesn't make everything go away that we have to deal with, but he does promise to be with us in it. And that's really the story of the Bible, is God stepping into our lives and really kind of dragging us, kicking and screaming through it sometimes.
Yeah, there's a interesting book. Charles Hodge wrote a book on prayer, and I don't get the exact list exactly right, but he basically had a couple of thoughts, and I've maybe have twisted them and made them a little bit my own, but when God answers our prayers, he answers it in different ways. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. He said no to Jesus. So if he can say no to Jesus, I guess he could say no to us. Mm-hmm. He said wait.
And has.
And he said wait. And he said not only wait, but I'm going to give you more than you can ask for at times. Mm-hmm. And then the last one that he talks about that I thought was the best one was he says, I'm gonna give you myself. Like I'm going to give you a piece of me to be able to get through this. So that's what I thought about when you were saying that is I'm going to give you what you need to get through it. So it kind of goes back to 2 Corinthians chapter 12 where he prays and prays and prays and God says no, but God doesn't just say no. He says, I'm going to give you what you need to get through it. And so when we wrestle with God, when we pray to God, it's almost like we get a piece of himself or a piece of God to help us get through it. So, that's always stuck with me, that idea of just because he said no didn't mean he wasn't going to help us get through it.
Oh no,
whatever that was. No. And so, we are made perfect through our weaknesses. He helps to perfect us even through those weaknesses.
And it's something we all have. We all have a weakness.
Yeah.
There are people, I'm sure, that look at certain people, and they may be walking around here this weekend, and they think, oh, that person doesn't have any weaknesses.
Yeah.
Maybe you thought that about your preacher growing up, like I did. Not that they ever would say that. Not that they even projected that.
No, they would never say that.
But we project that on people.
Yep.
That's just not true. We all have weaknesses. We all have things that we're going to struggle with. And sometimes even if it may be our only weakness is we don't acknowledge that we have one. Can sometimes be the biggest weakness we have.
That's probably the biggest one of all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when we admit those weaknesses, then a lot of times we find strength in them. And so that idea of we're fellow journeyers, and so there may be a day that I'm struggling, that I need you, and there's a day you're struggling and you need me. But even as a counselor, there's a need for me to sometimes lean on somebody else, because
Absolutely.
It's really tough to get through things sometimes.
Or maybe there's a night where we're both up past midnight, and then we have to be on a podcast. We get to be on a podcast, excuse me.
Right here in the middle of madness and mayhem here.
Yes, and but we do. I think that any preacher, anyone who's trying to teach anybody anything, this podcast, and it really started, did I say 5 years ago?
Yeah,
so 5 years ago,
yeah.
This thing started.
Crazy.
And it started, the first couple episodes were about our struggles and the things that we've been through. We've certainly shared over the last 5 years spiritual things that we've struggled with, sin that we've faced in our own lives, and that God has helped us overcome and assisted us in. So that's really what this thing's about, is sharing the stories that people experience, sharing the things that we've experienced, and how God has showed up and shown out to get us through them.
Well, and I walk through here, and I've run into a lot of people that we went to school with, a lot of people I've went to church with, a lot of people who've mentored me. Saw Doug Jackson. Shout out to Doug Jackson, who is both of our mentors, was our youth minister growing up. I've run into several people from Petersville, where I ministered, some people from Eva. I mean, just people all over the place that have meant something to me through the years. And but I also have run into people that I know have struggles, but they have struggles, I have struggles, we help each other. And that's the beautiful part about being a part of the church, being a part of this community, is that when I need help, there's other people there to lift me up. When they need help, hopefully I can be there to help them be lifted up.
I think the cancel culture has accentuated, not to get too political, accentuated the want of the world, the want of Satan to pile on.
Yep.
And the last thing that we need to be doing, we need to be teaching truth. There's no doubt about that. Truth, what's wrong, what's right, what's sin, what is not pleasing to God. But when that person shows remorse, we are to come alongside that person to actually rejoice as the angels rejoice in some shape, form, or fashion. And there's the difference of the world. The world tells you that, once you mess up, it's over. Yeah. And, that's a lie from Satan.
And Jesus said grace.
Yes.
Here's grace.
Grace and truth.
Yeah. So when, the definition we always heard is grace is receiving something you didn't deserve. But mercy, I guess I should have said mercy, is the part of not getting something you do deserve. Mm-hmm. So there's been plenty of times, I guess, that we deserved to have the book thrown at us, and we had mercy. And then there's times when God gives us a whole lot more than we deserve, and that's the grace of God. Yes. And that's all because of the love of God. So all those things are really important and special to us. So
now, as I was sitting here, somebody walked by, and that's the beauty of this, right? There's plenty of things that people that walk by and kind of trigger your memory, for sure. Steve Russell in the house. But I remember coming, one of the last times I've been to Lads, I hadn't been in a few years, and it was the best handlebar mustache I'd ever seen. Yes. At Lads. And I remember that, and then I got off the elevator, and I guess it was in this area. Maybe they've moved it since then. Get off the elevator, I walked through. There are people everywhere. It was more packed than it is currently right now. We're recording this on Friday, so I'm sure there's still people on the way to the convention.
A lot of them are at Puppets right now, probably, or starting.
I walked by Greg Maddox. He walks by me. He's going the other way. I walk by him, and it hits me like 5 feet by. That was Greg Maddox.
That's crazy.
And the most insane thing is no one else noticed. Like no one else. And I'm thinking we're like on that borderline of Atlanta Braves country and St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
even the Cardinals are going to know who Greg Maddox is. And he just walks by. And so it made me like question myself. Like, there's no way that's Greg Maddox. He just walked through here and not a soul
spoke to him.
Yeah, talking to him, asking for an autograph.
That's wild.
I think he may have had a hoodie on, and so that helped. But those are two things that stand out to me. I guess the last time I was here was with Stony Point as a competition.
Yeah.
And I can remember seeing some of those guys speak, and they're probably all, married and have kids of their own now. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. Probably bringing kids here now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I've got that girl. I've already seen a couple of, some of them are in our group still, but see the Stutz family walking through there. Drew just won the NAI National Championship with Freed Hardeman.
A lot of basketball this week.
Yeah,
I've watched
all kinds of good basketball.
Way more basketball than I'm used to in March. We're both Alabama fans.
Yeah.
We're not used to playing around this time of year.
Yeah.
Usually we're done fairly early at the latest, usually like this last weekend.
Yeah. That's about it.
But wow, they won. But shout out to Freed Hardeman.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Gritty win. 10 points in 50 seconds of game time, something crazy like that. Just gritty,
from
tough.
behind.
Yes.
It was solid. So, that was awesome. But I guess what we're saying is I've got kids in our group that are, the kids of my youth group kids. When I was at Highland Park, I've been there 16 years now. And then I've seen some other kids from other groups that have been a part of Petersville and Eva and other places where they were in my youth group, and now they got kids here. So that's really wild and crazy for that to be the case.
I feel like this is the closest we'll ever get to being on College game day.
Yeah,
there are no signs, and no one's yelling anything at us or walking in the background. So that's probably good.
Most people are ignoring us. That's so it's not.
We're used to that response,
except for when we see somebody we know, we might get a wave out of them, and that's about it.
They're just afraid of the cameras. They're like, "Where are the cameras?" And want to stay away from that.
Yeah. So it's an awesome thing. If you've never been able to come to Lads to Leaders, we would really encourage you to do that. Check it out. You can look it up online and see some of the information, but there's so much good that happens.
So I know in the Southeast, you've got Nashville, you've got Atlanta, Orlando, correct?
Right.
Any other ones?
Memphis, I think, still has one, I think. And then there used to be one maybe in Louisville, but I'm not sure if they've still got one or not. There's one in Denver. I think it's a different weekend. There's one in Dallas, I think. And then there's a couple that are, I want to think there's one maybe in India now. So it's a different weekend, but it's in India.
Yes, I've seen that one as well.
So, so it's in a lot of places, but a lot of them are this weekend. Most of them are this weekend. So
what are some experiences you've had? I shared some off the ball, kind of off topic experiences. I've been here less than you have, so that may be a really long list.
It is a long list. I've been to Atlanta, I've been to Memphis, and I've been to this one. So I've been to 3 of them. And I do remember going to Atlanta right after a tornado had tore through Atlanta. Like, I don't remember what year that was, but some of my group stopping to take a picture. When it tore through Atlanta, it was it cut off a lot of the places to eat in Atlanta, because they would get out of the hotel and walk down the street to some of the places to eat. So that was kind of a weird year, because it was really hard to find, food or, anything close, because it was in downtown Atlanta. We've been to Memphis. I think the year we went to Memphis, they were redoing the convention center, so it was all a mess too.
Nice.
So really, my best 2 experiences have been the one in Nashville. I don't think we had typical experiences at either of those 2. But here in Nashville, it's usually, it's nothing out of the usual other than just seeing a bunch of people we know, getting to hang out with people, running into people we graduated with. I guess the weirdest thing is when you run into people you graduated with and they all have grown kids like yours, and you think you're young till you come to something like this, and then all of a sudden you're seeing people who are supposed to still be young and they're not. We've all grown up.
Yeah,
and it's scary. Well, that's arguable.
Well,
we're older, but I don't know that we've grown up.
Not maturing. We try to avoid that. That's a word we try to avoid. Well, we've got a few more minutes left before you head off to Puppets and see that competition. So, all your kids, how many of your kids rolling in this weekend competing?
4 of 5 are competing. Jackson is working. He didn't get to come up this weekend, so he's out of town on his way, currently driving back home from South Alabama. Destin will be doing puppets today. Stana and Bransley will be doing speeches and song leading. They'll all be doing Bible Bowl, and then I think Cypress has got a song in the morning, and he's doing puppets. So all of them are doing puppets, and then the other ones are doing some of the speaking.
It's a busy weekend.
It is a busy weekend.
Good luck. I know they'll do well. And everybody's doing well.
Oh, yeah.
The main goal here is to learn how to better communicate the gospel.
Yeah.
And we certainly have different options. Ben mentioned benandtravis.com. We got blogs. We got fun sing songs. Ben had the Friday Refresh, a little 3 to 5 minute motivational podcast. It comes out every other Friday. There's a brand new one out when you hear this, the previous Friday. And then right now we just wrapped up the good old-fashioned Dislike, which is just a little fun.
It's always
football.
Fun. I really hate that it
podcast.
wraps up. I mean, it's one of those that's fun. I love listening to what you come up with that. It's not really religious in nature.
Well, if Bama hits the Final Four, I may have to do one, which I probably just stop that from happening. But nonetheless, look out for that. But we did do a March Madness, but all kinds of good content. Once again, the Adventures of Ben and Travis and the WorryCoaster pre-order now.
Yep.
If you do the producer, you get your name and the thank you page on the back. I think we
had one of those this morning. I think somebody did that again. So.
Excellent. So we'll talk to you later. Hope you have a great weekend, Ben. LastLeadersOfTheBomb.com.
Yeah, enjoy yourself in Nashville the next couple of days. So what's up, Mr. Cody Peary?
I'm now officially famous because I see the 2 dudes.
So he's right here. He may got on the end of the podcast there. So
you never know what might happen.
All right. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living, at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping Healing and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.